Thank you to our friends at Anchor for that again. And now we'll jump into the NFC side of things here. So first off, there were some seeding things that were going on in the afternoon. So the Eagles, there was a lot of turnover with them. They were in a position where they could potentially lose the division and be the first wild card, but they ended up winning. The Giants played all their backups. And, they ultimately ended up winning, clinching the 1 seed. No drama there. But in the 7th seed, the Seahawks held on to win, so that eliminated the Lions. And then, the Sunday night thing happened. So I don't want to talk an extensive amount about that. It was a very gut-wrenching loss because Aaron Rodgers did all that work to bring me back in, and I was fully all in. But, after the game, I was like an instant, like, damn it, Aaron, why did you have to do that, man? But I mean, it was just speeding up the inevitable, because next week we would have had to go on and take, we would have had to play the 49ers.
Yeah.
And the 49ers this year are really good, and you know what they've done to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers in the past. And so it was just kind of speeding up, the inevitable. And that's how I looked at it. It would have been nice to get into the playoffs, keep that streak going, but maybe missing the playoffs is what the Packers organization needed. Maybe a little wake-up call. So I don't know. We will turn to next season, and as a Packers fan, it's not. And I know that some people outside, like you, for example, will just say, "Oh, the Packers can bounce back in a year." They could, but the way things are going, it's going to be a rough stretch here for the next few years in Green Bay. I have a really big feeling, regardless of what Rodgers' decision is. Obviously, if Rodgers decides to leave, then all of a sudden it becomes really, really bad. But I think we're just looking at a scenario where maybe Matt LaFleur is not that good of a head coach. Maybe looking at a scenario where Brian Gutekunst is actually a really bad GM. And, obviously Aaron Rodgers is aging, so we'll see what happens. Alan Lazard, once out, he made that very clear in his post-game interview. That's weird. You had the defensive, just stupid plays. Obviously you had the Quay Walker shoving the trainer, the athletic trainer, trying to make sure a guy's okay. He's trying to give him medical attention. And you have the Rasul Douglas field goal play, which was just stupid. Not only does he walk up and just swat the ball out of nowhere, but then he slaps Lions offensive lineman just right in the head. Just it's stupid plays like that where you just are like, is Matt LaFleur really fit for this job? When Aaron Rodgers isn't like the best player in the entire world. And this year kind of exposed him a little bit. He's going to get another year next year, obviously. But if another bad year occurs, he may be gone, because he's starting to be on the hot seat here. And then that would just be one less very handsome coach in the NFL. We saw a handsome coach get fired earlier this week. So,
he'd still be
two really. I think Lovie Smith's the handsome man.
Huh? I do too. No, he's good looking.
Okay.
I'll say some stuff about that game too. Obviously, an outsider, as Luke is a Packers fan. I really wanted the Packers to win this game because I think I've mentioned before, I wanted Rodgers to get in for one last swan song. Because like Luke said, I am also on the train that their franchise is kind of going, it's on the decline. It's on the downslide right now. And a big deal with that, Luke, honestly, and this wasn't the problem on Sunday night, but was how the defense kind of just fell apart at the seams, literally. Safeties, got kind of wrecked all
just stupid plays.
But I wanted Rodgers in this, and they played good, better early on, but the offense really just never really got it going, and they never really got all the big plays that they did. And when they did, they got a huge play from Christian Watson, And I don't even know if they scored a touchdown on that drive after that. Big play by him. They weren't able to capitalize. The Lions were proved that they're fine playing in the cold, especially Jared Goff. And
he looked rough early, but he turned it around.
Yeah, but both quarterbacks did. I mean, the defenses were just, they were just playing really good defense in the cold. But, it just showed, it was interesting because I don't know really how to say this, but sometimes when coaches do before the game interviews down on the field or middle of the game interviews on the field, they say the most cliche shit imaginable that all of them say, and it's just recycled. Dan Campbell had one of the most surreal, real talk interviews in that game where he's just like, yeah, we're eliminated, but if we can't get in, neither can these guys. That's pretty much what he said. And they went out there and they did their job. Their job was to win that football game. We're going to win this football game. We're not worried about dropping some spots in the draft. We're going to win this football game. We're going to be a winning football team for the first time in years. And we're going to make teams happy that we didn't make the playoffs. And they really did just that. And he did have a huge fourth down call at the end of the game that Jared Goff converted to Chark, I believe, and that was all she wrote. And there was an incredible stat.
It was so obvious.
It was, but there was an incredible stat. I think it was like over the past 2 seasons, the Lions had converted up to that point 72 fourth downs, which is unreal. I mean, that is incredible. So
a number of those are on fake punts too.
Yeah, so some of them.
That's kind of fun. Like they just, they just kind of ride the wave, and they're like,
yes, they ride the
Like in that game. In that game, we stopped them on the third down, and it was like 4th and 2 maybe. And I was like, please just kick the field goal, Dan, because I knew if they went for it, they would get it. That was just the feel of the game. And obviously, Dan Campbell, he knew the same thing as me, and went out there, and of course, they got it and ended the game.
And
so it's always fun when you see a coach doing that.
Oh man, I kind of just blanked what I was going to say, but teams, their offense this year was really good for the most part. Obviously, they had some struggles on defense. In fact, Jamal Williams, he actually broke Barry Sanders' rushing touchdowns at a season record in that game. And post game, he was like all excited, and then he had like this come down to earth moment that he had the record and broke down into tears. But yeah, just, it was a good season for the Lions. They're on the right track. I think they finally know that after their very, very rough start. And at the end of the day, it's still their fault they didn't get in because, they lost to the Panthers, so just a few weeks ago when their hot streak could have just rolled them right into the offs. Instead, they dropped a game in Charlotte. So they only have themselves to blame, but this was kind of like their Super Bowl a little bit. I know they were still disappointed, but it was. And they had a great season. I think Jared Goff's coming back. They're not going to draft a quarterback under him, which I fully agree. This was Jared Goff's best NFL season. So better than his Super Bowl season. So I'm glad that they'll bring it.
The Lions are sitting here. The Lions are sitting here at the 6th overall pick and the 18th overall pick in the draft. If they would have lost that game on Sunday night, they would have had the 14th overall pick. But I think that Lions fans were willing to drop 4 picks in the draft to knock out the Packers, just because how much they hate us.
This mattered more.
So,
it really did. This mattered more for Dan Campbell in that locker room, in terms of we're a winning football team. Let's show we're a winning football team. We're going to knock out our rival here, and we're not going to leave anything out on the field. So, and they didn't. So, and
it sucks because you can't hate the Lions. Like as much as I want to hate the Lions for knocking us out, you can't. Yeah, you can't. It's like the Cubs. Like when the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. like as a Cardinals fan, you're supposed to hate it, but like you can't because they haven't won in 108 years. So it's kind of like that scenario. And both teams are blue, and blue's like a friendly color. So yeah, but as far as draft pick news, there was much better draft pick news that went on as obviously the Bears leapfrog the Texans in that scenario. And then
Incredible.
Arizona gets the 3rd pick. That's weird to see what they're going to do. Indianapolis gets the 4th pick, so they're in prime position to draft a top quarterback here. A lot of people are saying Will Levis. I think they are going to get one of the top 2 guys. They're going to get Young or they're going to get Stroud. I think they're going to end up with Stroud. Because here's the thing. Chicago, they're either going to take a defensive guy or they're going to trade down. Both of those options are very, very much. Obviously, Ryan Poles is talking about taking a quarterback if he thinks they could potentially be better than Justin Fields.
Smoke screen.
I think it might just be all talk. I don't know why they would do that.
Smoke screen.
Houston is going to take Bryce Young. It's as simple as that. Arizona is not going to take a QB. And then look at that. Indianapolis sitting right there at 4. They're going to take a QB. They're going to take Stroud. Boom.
I think this is what could happen, though. The Colts and Jim Irsay might be like, man, the Bears, they're not going to take a quarterback, right? They're not going to. Oh, man, they might take. Poles is going to be like, well, we like Fields, but Bryce Young, he's awesome. And also, they're also going to be just giving out fake news that there's probably other teams looking to trade up as well so that they can take Bryce Young. And also, they're going to be threatening the Colts like, look, if you don't trade up to this pick, Texans, they're mailing it in. They're taking Bryce Young. So if you want Bryce Young, you got to take him. And this is why they might want Bryce Young, Luke. C.J. Stroud has never won a game in Lucas Oil Stadium. Now, you might be like, what? Surely Ohio State has at least played in Lucas Oil Stadium during his tenure at Ohio State. Nope. Both years, Michigan won the Big Ten. So hasn't even played there yet. That's why I think.
Has Bryce Young won a game in Lucas Oil Stadium, though?
Probably a playoff game, if I had to imagine. Probably. Maybe not, but probably. And this is what I'll say.
Interesting question.
This is what I'll say. I would rather have Bryce Young, who's from SEC country, who maybe hasn't played at Lucas Oil, over C.J. Stroud, who had 2 years to get to Lucas Oil Stadium and couldn't. So I'll say that.
And that's also the thing.
Which just means I would think Bryce Young is better. But that's basically
Bryce Young also won a Heisman.
Yep.
He also won a Heisman Award. He's also played in the national championship. He's also won an SEC championship. What has Stroud done? He hasn't beaten the school's biggest rival. He's 0-2 in those games. Yes, they made the playoffs this year, but they lost in the first round. Now, granted, Stroud looked very good in that game, so you can't really blame him. And I think that's going to carry him to a higher pick because he looks so good in that game. Some teams are going to dwell on the recency bias. Stroud's good. But Bryce Young is the guy that's going to turn around your franchise. So
I'll say this: C.J. Stroud, Luke, he should not fall out of the top 5. I'll say that he shouldn't, unless teams trade up that don't want quarterbacks. But this isn't like your stud offensive tackle kind of year. Your stud cornerback in the top 5 like last year. You know, this is quarterback and skill kind of guys and edge rusher year kind of again. It's almost always an edge rusher year, but it's edge rusher and quarterback years. So he should not.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. Yeah, a lot of defensive line and then skill position. Like right now, I'm looking at the projected top 10. There's Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, obviously. And then there's Will Anderson, Miles Murphy, Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, Brian Breesy. Those are all defensive line guys. Will Levis is also projected in the top 10. And then Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver from TCU. Like, these are skill guys in defensive line. So If those are the guys you need, hopefully you have a top 10 pick because you're going to get one of them. So,
yeah. And then mostly all the top like 4 or 5 offensive tackles, they're all kind of projected in the 11 to 25, 26 range. So like I said, this is not like your offensive line changing offensive tackle year. It might be, a little bit, I'm not going to say like a super project, but they are probably all, or at least the first 3 that are going to be taking offensive tackles, they're probably all plug and play, but they're probably not going to be super studs right away, So like last year, Evan Neal, that's who I'm just kind of trying to bring out, or even Charles Cross for Seattle. But it's just not that kind of season. But how about that, Luke? Lovie Smith, during the week, he had a meeting with the front office and most importantly their GM about whether or not, because he was worried he was going to lose his job going into this week. I would assume, Luke, that if he went in for that meeting, they probably told him that you're fired, Lovie, no matter what. We're going to wait because there's one game left, but you're out the door either way, man. And I think right then and there, he just kind of said, F it. And they went for the win. Now, you could also say them going for 2
back on his old Bears hat.
Exactly. But them going for 2 there at the end is also him trying to lose that game because it was it was your base Madden play for 2-point conversion. It was nothing special. But they got it. And so Texans do not get the number 1 pick, which just puts them in jeopardy of not getting Bryce Young. And then he walked out the door. He was gone. So, like I said in the rundown, one of Lovie Smith's greatest Bears win, and he got to the NFC title game. So, yeah, he made.
Yeah, I mean, goodness gracious.
I think he was their coach during the Super Bowl run. Was it Lovie?
Mike Ditka?
No, not that. No, when they played
Super Bowl?
The 2008 or 9 Super Bowl.
Oh, when they got you. That was Lovie.
To return the kick for a touchdown, but they still lost. Obviously, their offense was horrible.
Yes, that was Lovie. That was when was that Jake Plummer?
I thought it was.
Who was their quarterback that year?
I thought it was Grossman.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think so.
So yeah, you want to get into the playoff picture. So Super Wildcard Weekend begins this week. It actually begins very soon. It's sneaking up on us. So there's 2 games on Saturday. Seattle at San Francisco is the afternoon game. And then Chargers at Jaguars is the nightcap.
Again.
I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. Just one note about all of the games. Every single matchup has already been played this year. Like, this is a rematch. Every single game in Wildcard Weekend slate is a rematch of something that happened earlier this year. So that's kind of interesting. So Seattle at San Francisco, divisional matchup. The Niners have beaten the Seahawks twice, and we always say it's hard to beat the same team 3 times. But this is a scenario where I think it's not going to be hard to beat the same team 3 times. I'll certainly be rooting for the Seahawks just because of the Geno Smith story. It would certainly be awesome, but there is no scenario in where I see just how do the Seahawks pull this off?
Well, Luke, the first key to pulling off this victory it's already in play. Last week after the game, Geno Smith had one of the coolest football story interviews I've ever seen. I can't remember who the reporter was, but she talked to him about setting the passing record, putting them in a spot to make the playoffs. And you could just, the emotion, the tears from Geno, it said all you had to say about how much he cared and how much he was thankful for not only this great season, but at the chance that they might get in the playoffs. And then the second piece of that puzzle, the Lions won. And then the third piece of this puzzle is, Luke, I don't think anybody's going to give them a chance to win this one because it's in San Francisco. And maybe the only thing you look at is that they have Brock Purdy, who's a rookie quarterback. And Luke, I'll say this. If Brock Purdy just kind of collapses, it will be very, very funny. I will say that.
Oh my goodness. That would
as a not a 49er guy my entire life, that would be very, very funny, and it would be awesome to see Seattle win. But I'm kind of in the camp that I'm not really giving Seattle that much of a chance either. I know you said it's hard to beat a team thrice, but I just don't. I think San Francisco is just on a heater. So I don't know if they're going to stop Geno.
Since they traded for McCaffrey, they haven't lost. And you think of how long ago that was that they traded for McCaffrey. Like, that was 3 months ago that happened, and they haven't lost since they did that. That is insane. And yeah, they're certainly on a heater. They're on like a double heater right now. But it would certainly be funny because Brock Purdy's been playing very, very well. He's had some big wins. He's had some big games. He hasn't done hardly anything stupid. And while I do think the 49ers will make the Super Bowl, this is a pot just waiting to boil over. Like, the 49ers basically just have to keep him under control. And if at any point in the game the Niners like get down or they're in a position where they need Brock Purdy to make a play, I don't see it happening. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mind Brock Purdy. I think the story is really cool. You know, Mr. Irrelevant coming in after our handsome prince gets injured and all that. I think it's a cool story, but he's Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. He literally went at the end of the 7th round for a reason. And he's played well so far, but one of these games, that defense is going to give him trouble. And hey, Seattle could be that defense because we've seen games this year where Seattle's defense, especially the defensive line, just steps up,
turns
it up, pressure on him, and I don't know. But the 49ers are so good at every position. Seattle would have to play literally a perfect game, and San Francisco would have to play. They'd have to make a lot of mistakes. To say the least. But Kyle Shanahan is historically not a good playoff coach. So,
yeah. I'll say this, though. As soon as we started talking about this and, like, we're getting deeper into this conversation, I just started to see, like, the super-duper, like, rich people of San Francisco, like, seeing them, like, really, really upset that they lost. It may sound really perverted, but that feels really, really good. I don't know. So if Seattle wins, it's gonna be really funny. I'll say that.
Oh,
that might have been
as a guy who has been tortured, as a guy who has been absolutely tortured and beat around by that franchise and by those fans, I would love to see nothing more than the team that knocked out the Packers to knock out the 49ers as well. That would just be perfect. But it's not going to happen. If you want to do like a pick 'em this week, I think we both agree that the 49ers are the pick.
Yeah, we'll pick the games. We'll still pick them. Just see how we do.
Okay. So
San Francisco is the pick. But man, this is gonna be like the best feeling this year
to be wrong.
Wins, if we're wrong.
All right,
yes.
And that moves us to the nightcap of Saturday night, which is going to be in Duval County. The Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert in the playoffs for the first time versus Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars in the playoffs for the first time as well. This is a rematch of the Week 3 game in which the Jaguars blew out the Chargers in LA in SoFi Stadium 38-10 and sparked me saying that the Jaguars were going to win the AFC South this year, which at times that prediction certainly did not look good this year, but here we are in a rematch scenario of that very game in which the Chargers were depleted, to say the least. They're back. Keenan Allen's back. Mike Williams is dead still, however, because Brandon Staley's an idiot and decided to just play every starter every play of the game, despite having the playoff seeding locked up, which didn't make any sense. But This is going to be a fun game. This is fun quarterbacks. This is fun colors. This is fun coaches. This is new teams. And it's very evenly matched teams. So it's going to be a fun one. To me, if we're picking the games, I'm going to pick the Chargers for this very reason, because the Jaguars are in the camp of just happy to be here. Like the Jaguars their fans did not expect this at the beginning of the year. They wanted to see improvement from Trevor Lawrence and the team for sure, but I don't think any of them expected to win the division and make the playoffs. And here they are. So they're in the happy to be here category. And if they lose this game, then it's still a very successful season for them, and they'll continue to build in the offseason and next year. The Chargers, though, this is where they needed to be. At the beginning of the season, a lot of people picked them to win the division over the Chiefs, and if not, it was to be in like the 5 seed of the playoffs. They need to win this game to have a successful season. In order to make themselves feel better about their franchise and their future, they need to win this game, and I think they're going to have a little bit more urgency than Jacksonville, which might be a bad thing, but I'll pick the Chargers.
This is what I would like to see. I would like to either see an Austin halfback power Eckler masterclass or a Keenan Allen 14 catches masterclass.
Oh my goodness.
I would really like to see. I think I want to see the Chargers get over the hump a little bit more than the Jaguars, as weird as that sounds, and not a Chargers fan. I think Herbert, well, we all know this. Herbert has the potential to be probably top 2 quarterback in the NFL, behind maybe Mahomes and maybe interchangeable with Allen if he can get over this hump. So I'd like to see it. I don't know what Mike Williams' status is. Bosa's going to be fine. He just had an illness. I know in the rundown we said he got hurt.
Okay.
But he has an illness, so he should be fine, which you need your pass rushers once you get into the big dance.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd like to know what Mike Williams' status is, because the Jaguars, they have some solid secondary players that they've developed over the past couple of years, but I don't know if they have enough to maintain both Allen and Williams when they're on the field. So I would like Mike Williams to be healthy so that the Chargers, I would prefer them if they win this game. Now, this is probably out of the entire Super Wild Card weekend, maybe New York and Minnesota. This is the game that I care least about who wins. Like I said, I'd like to see the Chargers win, but if Jacksonville wins, that is also really freaking cool. This is, like you said, this is new blood. These are 2 new teams in the playoffs, and one of them has to win. So we'll get to see at least one new blood team advance on. And so either way, I'm good with whatever. I do want the Chargers to win, and I'm going to pick the Chargers to win with you as well, and kind of avenge that early season disaster that was when Trevor Lawrence went into SoFi Stadium and they just crushed the Chargers. But to be fair, Justin Herbert also
they were depleted
ribs. So yeah,
they missed. They had like none of their stars playing or anything. And you asked about the Mike Williams status. This is a report from 2 hours ago. It says he's questionable to play, but he hasn't practiced at all this week. However, Brandon Staley did give a statement that said he could play in Saturday's game, even if he doesn't practice at all this week, which is probably unlikely. But I mean, this game is literally in 2 days' time, and he hasn't even practiced. He was seen struggling to walk after the game, like he couldn't even walk from the locker room to the bus. So I would say I'd say his status is actually doubtful. I'm not going to officially rule him out, and even if he does play, it will be in a limited fashion. I hate Brandon Staley for playing him.
I'll say this: I know
they did
you
that
hate
to him.
it.
It's such a Charger thing.
It is, and maybe that's why you have to kind of look in the mirror and be like, "Man, we're one of the most snake-bitten franchises ever in NFL history in terms of injury luck, especially in the playoffs." Maybe we sit all of our guys. Personally, though, I think it is a huge football guy move to just play. To just play your guys, go out there and try to win. I think it is. It kind of reminds me of when Justin Herbert a few weeks ago, Staley, or I can't remember who it was, announced to the team that it was Victory Monday, no practice, no film.
Oh, yeah.
Monday. And Herbert's like, no, you should be booing. You should be booing. We should be practicing. And that was a football guy move. Personally, I think it is a football guy move to just be like, it's still football. This is still God's game. He wanted us to play this game. Let's go out and play. But yeah, it backfired. It really did, and it does suck. And like I said, I would much rather see Mike Williams and Keenan Allen out on the field at the same time with Eckler out of the backfield and Everett catching passes up the seam. So, but yeah, it looks like they might just have to ride with Allen and Everett and Eckler. So, it sucks, but that's the reality of football. So,
indeed. Oh man, FGCU didn't cover. I don't like that.
Grand Canyon?
No, Florida Gulf Coast.
Oh.
Yeah, not good there.
That was a sick one.
All right. And,
okay, back to NFL. Miami at Buffalo. Miami.
Oh my God.
Is going to get crushed.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. Oh.
And
I thought you were picking Miami.
No, I'm not picking Miami.
This is going to be a sad game. There's a reason why the NFL put this game at the 1 o'clock slot on Sunday. And it's because, the sickos that love NFL are going to come and watch this game and watch Josh Allen and the Bills absolutely dominate. And I know for a fact that the Dolphins are going to come out in those all white uniforms with the blue tint on them. And it's just going to be sad. Skylar Thompson's probably going to have like no touchdowns, 2 picks. He's going to have like a 16 for 33 stat line, for 197 yards. No touchdowns, 2 picks.
He's not throwing for that many yards, Luke. I'm sorry.
He'll get
unless he hits a garbage fourth quarter 30.
Get some garbage time. Yeah, he could get some garbage time yards to Tyreek Hill.
I think this might be a gadget game. And by that I just mean this might be a gadget game in terms of you're playing Skylar Thompson. This might sound crazy. It might be time for Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle to throw the football. And we might be looking at a wide receiver passing touchdown this week. And in terms of you got to find somebody to score that, and Skylar Thompson's probably not going to be the guy to deliver that pass. So out of all the games this week, especially since Derrick Henry and the Titans aren't playing, I would pick this game to have a non-quarterback throw a touchdown because they're going to have to pull some shit out of their ass for this to even get close.
Maybe they just run the Wildcat with Tyreek Hill. And like, hey, if you see an opening, then just take off running. And if you don't, then just check it down to Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, I don't think
or your buddy Jalen.
I don't even think Tyreek Hill would ever sign up to run the Wildcat because he's just so small. And speaking of which, he was actually struggling with an ankle injury all game last weekend against the Jets, so hopefully he's okay. They literally need everybody at full strength to have any shot. And by the way, week 19, nobody's at full strength. So that's why Buffalo. So no questions asked. New York at Minnesota.
This might be a sad game.
This one? New York at Minnesota?
No, the Buffalo one.
Oh,
the Buffalo one. I think the line's like 10.5, and that was before Tua got out. Let's see what the line is now. 13.5 Buffalo, and I think I take Buffalo.
Yeah.
As sad as that is.
Your best hope.
Hey, NFL, this is your fault for adding the 7th playoff team, though.
No, don't even say that, Luke. More football. Don't even. There's no reason for you to say that. Your best. one thing that you maybe can hold your breath on if you're Miami too, and you just have to hope and pray, is Josh Allen has turned the ball over like crazy this year. So maybe you can hold your hat on that and just hope, but it's Buffalo. So
Yeah.
New York at Minnesota.
Next game?
Yeah, next game here, New York at Minnesota, AT&T or US Bank Stadium. New York played here earlier, actually not that long ago, and what was ended up being a shootout, and was a great game where the Giants came roaring back. I'm curious to see what time this game is. Any idea?
3:30?
Okay.
Yes, it is at 3:30 p.m. Central Time.
I'll be honest, I kind of want to just take Minnesota here, and New York is kind of coming off like a week of rest, but like a full week,
Yeah.
they rested their starters the whole way. Minnesota got some offensive rhythm going, though, in that Chicago game, which is probably going to be very useful for them. We'll see. This one, I really don't know. And if you look at seeding, you're like, why don't you know? It's got to be Minnesota, right? I just don't know. New York, they just hang around with pretty much everybody, especially teams like Minnesota. That's why I really don't know who I would pick in this game. I mean, Justin Jefferson should run free in this game, one would think. But Dable might have something coming for him. I don't know. And the Giants can stop the run. And the Vikings don't even have that great of a rushing game this year anyway, which means it's going to be pass for Kirk Cousins, not a noon game. He has won a playoff game in this time slot before, and in fact, it was on the road against the Saints. But I'm not sure. So, Luke, what are your thoughts on this one right now?
This is going back to kind of the reasoning I had for the Chargers-Jags pick. The Giants are in the category of they are just happy to be here. Absolutely none of their fan base expected them to make the playoffs at the beginning of this year. And look, here they are. And obviously they want to win the game, obviously, as any playoff team does. But Minnesota is sitting here. They have something to prove. They've been talked all year about how they're frauds. They're not going to win in the postseason. They're just going to choke in the first round. Well, here you are. You have a chance. You're at US Bank Stadium. You're going to have the Skol chant going by the fans. You're going to have Kirk Cousins. You're going to have KOC. And they're going to look to dominate in their first playoff game together. The Vikings have something to prove. The Giants don't necessarily. They already proved. Brian Dable and his team, they already proved everyone wrong. The Vikings still got something to prove. They're going to come out here. It might not be pretty. It's not going to be pretty at all. I think they get the job done and win this game. And then ultimately just, get destroyed next week by the Niners. But we'll talk about that when that actually happens.
I know you said that they still want to win the game, but you said that the Giants are in the happy to be here category. And I would agree with you on that in terms of their fans. Dable and his team, they will not come into this game with the we're happy to be here. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, they are not the type of players that are just happy to be here. They are winning. They're looking to win this game. They're very much looking to win this game. And this one, and you said it's going to be ugly. Daniel Jones and Saquon they're going to either make this ugly themselves or they're going to come clawing back like they did in the first round of this one. I still think you're right. I think it's Minnesota. I think, if it gets to be a close game, Luke, guess who has the most experience in close games this year? Is the Purple People Eaters. So
exactly.
I think that maybe this is where it will propel them to a victory, and then that'll be all she wrote, like you said. But I do agree with you. I think this is Minnesota's spot, and I think the Giants are going to play them close. I really do, and
I
it will be
agree.
a successful season for them. But I think they will play it close.
Yeah. And now to the other Purple People Eaters against the Tigers, the Bengal Tigers, Baltimore at Cincinnati, and this has the makings of being another Bills Dolphins game. Lamar is not looking good. He hasn't practiced yet. He's listed as doubtful.
Yep.
I think he was seriously injured, and the Ravens were kind of just hiding it. But yeah, this is going to be a Tyler Huntley spot, and if it's not Tyler Huntley, it's going to be Anthony Brown. And you look on the other side, and you have Joe Burrow, you have Joe Mixon, you have Jamar Chase, you know the Jays, you got T. Higgins, and then you look on the defensive side. I don't even know who they have on their defensive side. Eli Apple, I don't know, but you got those 4 guys on offense. And then you look at the Ravens, and you have J.K. Dobbins. So it's John Harbaugh's a good coach. He's gotten this team a lot of wins this year. A lot of games that maybe they shouldn't have won, but it's in Cincinnati. That team's a little pissed off, I think. And yeah, they're just going to come out and dominate them. However, I've talked about this a little bit in the rundown. Maybe the Ravens purposely lost last week because they know the fact it's hard to beat the same team 3 times, and they already beat them once in the year. So maybe they're like, hey, we're going to play them next week no matter what. Let's just lose this game and focus on next week. I doubt they did that, but hey, you never know.
Yeah. I don't think John Harbaugh would do that, but it didn't look like they put out their best effort last week. I'll say that. Here's one stat I'll give for you, Luke, that really is going to be the reason why we picked the Bengals here. Joe Burrow, SEC. Anthony Brown, Pac-12. That's all you really have to know about that quarterback comparison.
Joe Burrow, national champion and Heisman. Anthony Brown couldn't even win the Pac-12.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Lost to UCLA on the road.
Oh my God.
And here's what I gotta say. Lamar Jackson tweeted out today that his PCL sprain, from what is now been 42 days, what was supposed to be a 21-day recovery, his PCL sprain, I think it was like a level 2 sprain. Well, it was actually a level 3. And that's why it's so bad. And he tweeted that out. He's like, I want to be there for my guys. And I believe him. Lamar is a baller. He's a gamer. He really just he's super competitive. He wants to win. I know he wants his bag, but he wants to win. And his tweet, it didn't make it. He's like, he's hoping for some kind of miracle, but the fact that it's going to take a miracle is all signs pointing to that we're either getting Huntley, who has also been hurt and is the better option than Anthony Brown. But like I said, Huntley has also been hurt, and this looks like another Anthony Brown game. And I don't know what you're going to do. The Ravens might be able to stop the run.
That's what you're going to do.
They might be able to stop the run with Roquan and the safeties filling some split flow gaps, but I don't know if they, Marlon Humphrey, he's only one man. So they really don't have a whole lot of guys to defend the Bengals' arsenal as we've seen. So in Cincinnati, and I think this is Bungles, especially. Now, this could be this is a clause situation. If Lamar Jackson plays, I still think the Bengals win. So it's not.
No, I don't think it's a clause situation.
It's not.
Here's the difference. If Lamar Jackson plays, it's going to be a fun game.
Exactly.
If he doesn't play, it's going to be rough.
That's the clause.
It's
if
the
he
Bungles
plays,
either way.
fun.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, not fun. So that's your clause. It's still Cincinnati. And I think the reason why me and Luke are so quick to say that even if Lamar plays, Cincinnati is going to win. It's Cincinnati probably has the better roster, and 2, it is hard to play football 7 weeks removed from playing your last snap on a horrible knee that is very much battered.
Yeah.
Very much in the back of your mind that if you tear your ACL, you're not even going to come close to that Deshaun Watson money probably. So, yeah. So, yeah, we're going to take Cincinnati there. And we'll see what happens with Lamar.
Game of the week, in my opinion, now. Monday night, I don't know if game of the week, but it's definitely probably the funnest game. That's why they put it Monday night, I would imagine. Dallas Cowboys at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As we've mentioned many times, it feels like we see this matchup like every week in the NFL almost, or every other week. Seems like the Cowboys and Bucs are playing. So it's only fitting they would play each other in the first round of the playoffs. Oh, man, this is a tough game. This is really a toss-up game, in my opinion. It's going to come down to who comes out and plays ball. If the Cowboys defense comes out and Dak doesn't do too much to screw it up, Cowboys are on their game, they got a great chance to win. If Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Byron Leftwich, they come out, they bring their A game, it's going to be tough to beat them.
Yep.
However, both these teams, we've seen the ceiling for both these teams, and we've seen the floor for both of these teams. I don't know. I'll take Tampa Bay because they're at home. That's literally the only reason. And because Tom Brady in the playoffs, I don't want to pick against Tom Brady in the playoffs. That just seems like a dumb idea. But I'm here to say that this is a true toss-up game.
I have some takes on this game as well here, and it's basically just repeating the same thing that you said. We've seen ceilings and floors of both these teams. Here's what I will say. This year, Lucas, Dallas's ceiling has been much higher than Tampa Bay's ceiling this year. And honestly, Dallas's floor is probably honestly been higher than Tampa Bay's floor. Tampa Bay's floor is flat out ugly. But I think what this is really going to come down to is which Dak Prescott do we get? Which Dak do we get? And then it's going to come down to which Tampa Bay do we get? Because if you get the Tampa Bay from the regular season, even mid-Dak can probably beat them. But if you get the Dak Prescott of old, the good Dak Prescott versus that regular season Tampa Bay, I mean, this could be a 10, 13-point victory for the Cowboys. Now, I will say this.
It also comes down to how fat does Mike McCarthy look?
That's going to play
how sad does Todd Bowles look?
Todd Bowles probably going to look – he's going to look pretty sad, I feel like, if the Cowboys get up to a
How many
lead early.
times – yeah.
And
here's my question for you, Cam. How many times do they pan the camera to Todd Bowles and he looks like he's just about to start bawling his eyes out?
Oh, man, if I had to set an over-under on it, I'd probably say 13.5. And then Mike McCarthy, the camera is going to be on him a lot down the stretch of this game because you said it, Luke. Mike McCarthy, it's going to be hot and sweaty probably, and it may not even be that hot in Tampa Bay. But Mike is fat. It's going to be a little bit hotter for him. He's going to be moving around a little bit. He's going to be stressed out a lot, which that puts some heat on a bigger man. He's probably going to have a hellacious pregame meal that is going to be filled with calories and carbs. You know, Mike's face might be a little too fat for even the good Dak Prescott to overcome if Tampa Bay plays their best game. Now, if that doesn't happen, if Tampa Bay doesn't play their best game, then Mike's fat face might be able to get out of here with the win. But yeah, you're right.
It is out of here with the win.
It is gonna come down to how fat Mike looks. Now, I will give you this stat, Luke. Okay. The Cowboys' win and loss pattern this year goes like this: loss, 2 wins, loss, 4 straight wins, loss, 2 wins, loss, 4 straight wins, loss, 2 wins, and they ended their season on a loss, Luke. The next stretch in the pattern of the Dallas Cowboys
Cam, that's stupid.
is 4 games.
Yeah, I'll tell
4 games.
I'll tell you another stat.
You know how many games there are left in the NFL season if you win the Super Bowl? 4 games.
4.
The pattern
Cam,
shows.
Do I need to tell you my stat? When was the last time the Cowboys not won a conference championship? When was the last time they appeared in an NFC conference championship? When was the last time the Dallas Cowboys were one of the 2 remaining teams of the NFC? 1995. That was 8 years before me and you were born. We're legal adults. We can vote now.
Okay, let me tell you this.
How long it's been?
Let me tell you this. Who was the quarterback in that game?
I want to say Troy Aikman.
Who is going to be calling Monday Night Football?
No, that's a good point.
Troy Aikman.
That's a good
The
point.
stars are aligning for Fat Mike to at least get out of the first round of the playoffs. You have the win-loss pattern, the 2-loss, win-4 loss that has leading us up to the next stretch of the pattern, which is 4 wins. You're also going to have the quarterback in the building of that last NFC title game. Troy Aikman is going to be in the building for that game. This might be enough to derail Tom Brady. And by the way, they're under 500, Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. And Todd Bowles should be fired immediately after this game. Tom Brady, I would be fine if he stays in Tampa, but personally, I think it would be more fun if he went somewhere else. We'll see what happens.
Like the Raiders.
I'm going to take the Cowboys. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Okay.
I'm taking the Cowboys.
I'll stick with the Bucs. We've picked the same team every single game, and obviously throughout the regular season, sometimes we vetoed each other, but we picked the same game ultimately. This will be the first head-to-head matchup between me and you. I'm sticking with the Bucs. You can take the Cowboys. I personally can't pick the Cowboys to win in the playoffs because it very rarely happens. So
it does.
So yeah, that was playoff preview. Super wildcard weekend preview.
And like I said, honestly, all jokes aside, it's really going to come down to, I think, what Dak we get. I don't even think it's going to matter what Tom Brady and Buccaneers offense we get. I think it's really going to come down to what Dak we get, because we've even seen good Tom Brady with this Buccaneers team, and even good Tom Brady with this Buccaneers team has barely beaten the Panthers. So, and that was with the Mike Evans explosion week, and they still, they just had to pull one out against the Panthers. So that should kind of tell you what you need to know, and I think that's why I'm going to pick the Cowboys. So, yeah, one of the few times I think I'll actually honestly be rooting for the Cowboys as well. Although I will feel bad. I will feel bad about rooting for the Cowboys if it's Tom Brady's last game, because I've kind of softened up. I think me and you both have softened up a little bit on Tom Brady as he's been a Buccaneer. But yeah, I guess that's our playoff preview. Bye week for the Chiefs and Eagles, so they'll get to watch from home. So good for them.
The fun watch from home, though. The fun watch from home, not the other 16, 18 teams that have been eliminated. That's not a fun watch from home, like me and you, the Steelers and Packers. But, they get the fun watch.
A lot of those guys.
Yeah, so we're pretty far. Yeah, we're pretty far into this show already. Obviously, it's a very important week in football. But we will end off with the fantasy corner here, a little bit of a lighthearted note, as we do every week. And I'll start off, obviously, as we do every week as well. My stardom, the New Zealand government. And you may be looking at me like, what has the New Zealand government done? Now, this was a few weeks ago that it happened, but it's weird. They're trying to fizzle out smoking in their country, which is, if you go to a place like France and tell them that they're doing this, they'd be shocked. But it's not. It's New Zealand, and they're very progressive. But they enacted a law in which every single year, the smoking age will be increased. So right now, I do believe like you have to be 18 to smoke cigarettes in New Zealand. Next year, you have to be 19. You have to do that, you're 20. So basically what it was is anyone, it's going to start in a few years. It doesn't start immediately, but basically if you're born after 2008, you will never ever be able to legally smoke in the country of New Zealand. So they're grandfathering this in. So like people that are already addicted to smoking, they can continue being addicted to smoking without any repercussions. But yeah, it's grandfathering in. It's a very interesting thing that's happening. I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. So start them. Just start something new. I love it, New Zealand. Trying to make the world a healthier and better place. So, and then my other stardom, I didn't write this one down, but it's just team culture. My teams are going through some very weird things. We talked about the Packers team culture thing that's going on. Very weird. But earlier today, the St. Louis Cardinals bench coach, who they just hired like 2 months ago, Matt Holliday, he just resigned out of nowhere. So a very confusing thing. He said it had nothing to do with the Cardinals organization, although obviously he's going to say that even if it did. So that's a very weird thing to have happen. And this is the third coach to willingly resign or leave their position in the Cardinals organization over the past few months. Obviously, we had Jeff Albert and Mike Maddox do it. So very, very weird team culture things going on. Should we be worried as Cardinals fans? I don't know. I'm not willing to say yes yet, but I'm also not going to say no. And then my sit-em is self-checkouts, because there was a study done, much like, I don't know if you remember a long time ago, this was probably during the summertime when we had the hand dryers, like the air dryer thing, when I talked about all the germs and stuff that was going on in there.
Haven't used
Another
one
study
since.
came out about self-checkouts, and they actually compared it to like, they tested the bacteria and stuff on these self-checkout screens and tested it with like toilets and door handles, and the amount of bacteria and actually dangerous disease-making bacteria that was on these self-checkout lanes was so extreme that it like blew toilet bacteria, door handle bacteria out of the water. There's like E. coli. There's just so many disease-causing things, that cause diarrhea, that cause stomach aches. Some that even cause like deadly disease, like what's another one? I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah, self-checkouts, because yeah, they are convenient. Trust me, they're much more convenient just to go tap, scan your items, get out of there instead of having to wait in the long grocery line. But maybe you should bring like a Clorox wipe or something, to the checkout lane with you, so you can wipe down the screen before you start tapping away at it. Because you start tapping away at the self-checkout screen, you go to itch your nose or something, then boom, you're on the toilet for a week straight with diarrhea. So, just a heads up for the people out there. And then my sleeper is the U.S. House of Representatives, because I don't know how any of them did not fall asleep. They had 16 ballots or 15 ballots basically to elect the Speaker of the House. It was just rinse and repeat. Like after the first few ballots, I just imagine, Kevin McCarthy was obviously the favorite because he was the leader for the House Republicans during the last tenure. And since they now have the majority in the House, people are like, oh, he's going to be the Speaker of the House. Well, actually not, because it turns out some Republicans don't like Kevin McCarthy, so they didn't vote for him. And ballot after ballot after ballot after ballot, he never got enough votes. And it's just like, are they going to try a different method? Or are they just going to keep running it back? It's like the Raiders running back Derek Carr every year, expecting him to be like an MVP candidate. That's what it reminded me of. But eventually some of the Republicans cracked and they voted for Kevin McCarthy, and he is now the Speaker of the House after like 15 or 16 ballots. So, yeah, if I was in the House of Representatives, I probably would have fallen asleep, to say the least. And that's my stardom sleeper.
All right. Over to Cam's fantasy corner here. My stardom is Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I'm starting them because as of today, January 12th, 2023, year of our Lord and Savior, the Duke, the NFL, the commissioner has selected Mercedes-Benz Stadium to host the very possible Chiefs-Bills AFC title game. And Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Luke, is kind of just on a heater in terms of hosting very important football games. Hosted that Georgia-Ohio State game, and now they're going to be hosting the AFC title game if Chiefs and Bills play. So that's who I'm starting.
They also hosted the SEC championship.
Always, yes, always. So yeah, my sit on Luke is Skylar Thompson. I know you predicted 197 yards for him on 16 of 33 passing, 2 picks, no touchdowns. I'm gonna go with 11 of 29 for 117, 2 picks. So, and a lost fumble. So sit Skylar Thompson this week. So yeah. My sleeper is Big Red. Big Red, Luke's car, Luke's Toyota Camry.
Hey, Kim, I'm gonna go on.
I think it was a Camry.
Sorry.
Is dead. Big
Yeah,
Red
it was
dead.
no, it was not. It was not a Toyota Camry. It was a Toyota Corolla.
Corolla.
It was very
dead.
red too. That hence the name. Yeah, it's. I think it's Cam's sleeper because
It's
it's
sleeping.
asleep.
It's dead.
Yeah.
So,
The engine is gone.
Luke.
So if any here, I'm going to say this: if anyone tells you get a Toyota, they last a long time. That's what I was told, and I didn't even get 200,000 miles out of it before the engine blew. So it hasn't actually blown yet, but there's a blown head gasket, which basically just leads there's an increased chance of your car engine overheating and then just exploding at any point in time. So
Yeah. And then
I'm back in the car market.
Yeah.
I'm in the free agent market for cars, to say the least. And I've been working out some prospects over the last few days. Hopefully we sign one long term pretty soon. We got some top targets in mind. We got the draft board ready, so
yeah, not a lot of
we'll have
cap
to see
space.
what we come up with.
Not a lot of cap space.
Oh no, cap
as a
space is
college
lacking.
kid. Yeah, as a college kid,
Yeah.
cap space is limited. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the Raiders right now with Mark Davis. We can't even fire our coach because we don't have enough money. So we're looking for value here. We're running a little money ball strategy. We're looking for the undervalued players that could produce for us. So yeah,
Definitely. My other sleeper, and this is just a precautionary warning that if you work for the government, you're not allowed to listen to the next 30 seconds.
yeah.
Okay, you have to turn it off. Okay.
Fair enough.
My other sleeper is the blistering water of Port Hudson, because on Saturday at around 1 p.m., which means we will miss the start of Super Wild Card Weekend, but it is the worst game. At about 1 p.m., Luke, for the second straight year, will have to be plunging into blistering cold water before losing in fantasy football. So, yeah, that is my sleeper. Luke, the water is ready to come play. So you better be ready.
Next year when we do our NFL preview and we, give some fantasy advice, whatever I say, do the exact opposite, because this is the second straight year I've gotten last. It's not fun. It's not fun.
I will say this. In my opinion, Luke, it's kind of a fraudulent last place, because if you count the playoffs, you didn't get last place. the loser bracket playoffs. You did not get last
Yeah,
place.
yeah. I got
That's-
6th place overall, man.
Yeah. That's just me. I actually think the playoffs mean something. I was actually in the camp of people who got screwed over hard by the Bills-Bengals game. Now, I was only in the 3rd place game. In fact, the person who got second in our league had Josh Allen, so they really got screwed. But I had Jamar Chase, and I just needed like 5 points to win my matchup. And I thought we were going to play. I thought what was going to happen, because on our fantasy, on the Yahoo Fantasy app, it said everybody else's stats were locked in, but it said Jamar Chase that it just said postponed. So I just thought that they were going to take – the fantasy app was just going to take whatever Week 18's results were for Jamar Chase. And apparently in a bunch of leagues, that's what happened. They just took whatever Week 18 stats were for like Josh Allen, Jamar Chase. I don't know if that was something that we had to set up or like agree to in the settings. So that would have been you, because I think you're the one who has – are you the commissioner? I'm pretty sure you are, right?
I don't know. I'm not that smart with the commissioner stuff. I just run the league.
No, I'm not blaming you. I just saw that people found a way to figure that out. But anyway, Jamar Chase scored a touchdown, and so I would have won. But at least my matchup. And I think Josh Allen probably would have beat Jake. So Jacob Michael Baldwin. But Jacob Michael Baldwin is fantasy champion. So
yeah,
good for Jacob Michael Baldwin.
Maybe with an
my
asterisk.
sleeper.
This might be a Mickey Mouse situation. Mickey Mouse title.
It kind of is. It's a Mickey Mouse last place for you, because really you got 6th in my opinion. I think it would have been Morg Dog.
Well, yeah, but I also finished the regular season. I finished the regular season in last place by 2 games. So is it really Mickey Mouse?
Okay,
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, you're bad. I'll say it. You're bad.
And I started off 4-2. I was in 2nd place after week 6, 4-2, just cruising along, and then the season just drove off the road. The wheels fell off the bus, to say the least. And even though I had that Sunday night miracle with the Dallas defense, that was literally the only game I won the rest of the year after week 6. So,
oh yeah, I remember that game. That was awesome,
man. Yeah, that was the only game I won. So it took a miracle for me to even win one more game the rest of the year. That's how bad I was. So yeah, the punishment will be.
It's honestly though, like if you're trying, like we talk about this with March Madness brackets, it's hard to pick every loser. It's hard to get last 2 years in a row. It really is, because at the end of the day, fantasy.
It's like winning 2 years in a row.
It is. It's like, well, not quite, but it's. Fantasy is predicated on luck. So 2 string years of bad luck that puts you all the way in last place is pretty rough. Last year it was much closer, but like you said, you're right. I mean, you were a full 2 games in last. But so, yeah, that was our fantasy corner, though, as well. And that's pretty much our show. And you weren't allowed to.
We don't have time for a simulator.
So, yeah. Yep, no time for simulator.
We talked about doing the simulator since it's the first round of the playoffs, but we do not have time for that. So maybe I'll run a simulator on my own, and I'll just post the results on the Twitter account. But yeah, hopefully everyone can listen to this on Friday. I know we had a lot of views on our YouTube last time, so if you're coming back from that, if you're rewatching you're a continued viewer from the YouTube or from other streaming platforms, we appreciate you. And welcome to the SMS family. And with that concludes the Trump episode. We'll see you next week for Super Wildcard Weekend recap, and we'll preview the divisional round, which has the potential to have some really, really good matchups. And it will be the Joe Biden episode. So we're just going up the line here with presidents. And yeah, that's all I got. See you guys. Cam, you got anything?
No, enjoy Super Wildcard Weekend.
Yeah. And the Blues are getting killed 4-1. So another
Shit.
loss. But yeah, see you guys.